comes a moment when the universe stops taking notes and starts taking action. That's the moment you're in right now, because let's be brutally honest, what you went through wasn't a misunderstanding, a coincidence, or an unfortunate streak of bad luck. No, it was calculated, coordinated, crafted with intention by people who thought you were too blind, too soft, or too forgiving to ever realize what was really happening. They didn't just fail to show mercy, they chose not to. Mercy was never even on the menu. And here's the part that would make a psychologist raise an eyebrow. Studies show that people who lack empathy overestimate their ability to manipulate others. They truly believe they can get away with anything simply because they can imagine themselves getting away with it. That's the disconnect your enemies lived in, believing that their cruelty would vanish into thin air just because you didn't immediately react or retaliate. But life doesn't work like that. Energy doesn't work like that. And karma definitely doesn't work like that. You may have stayed quiet, you may have endured without theatrics, but the universe was documenting every detail like a top-tier investigator with nothing but time and cosmic receipts. And now those records are being processed. What's funny, if we can call it that, is how shocked they look now. The same people who were bold enough to target you with precision hurt are suddenly confused when consequences come knocking, acting like, huh? Me? What did I do? As if their entire personality wasn't an ongoing demolition project aimed at your peace. They planned the chaos, but they didn't plan the aftermath. And that's where the story flips. Because chosen ones don't rise quietly. They rise with the echoes of everything done to them. Their elevation isn't random, it's a response, a divine reaction to intentional harm. And whether your enemies admit it or not, they can feel the shift. They can sense that something is turning against them, something they didn't expect, something they absolutely cannot control. This isn't just karma. This isn't just justice. This is the universe returning the energy they thought was lost in the dark. And trust me, this is the part they never saw coming. Number one, they miscalculated you because they only studied your wounds, not your wiring. People who wanted to see you fall were convinced they understood you. They thought they had you all figured out because they watched the parts of you that were hurting. They measured your weakness, not realizing your strength lived in a different place entirely. They saw your moments of confusion, frustration, sadness, exhaustion, and built an entire strategy around those snapshots. In their minds, your wounds were your whole identity. They assumed that if they poked at the places where you were already bleeding, you'd finally collapse. But they never took the time to understand what you're actually made of. They didn't look at the inner wiring that kept you moving even when life hit harder than it should have. They didn't notice how your spirit reorganizes itself after every setback. They didn't realize your pain wasn't your breaking point. It was your recalibration phase. While they were studying your surface, your soul was doing deep construction without making noise. Your enemies believed your silence meant you were overwhelmed. They thought your quiet seasons meant they had finally succeeded. They mistook your pause for surrender. What they didn't understand was that your wiring is built for endurance, growth, and comeback. You don't fall apart. You reassemble stronger. You don't stay stuck. You process, purge, and then rise with better clarity. They underestimated all of that because they were too focused on what hurt you instead of what heals you. They built their attacks around the wrong version of you. Their calculations were based on outdated information, the version of you that existed before you learned boundaries, before you learned discernment, before you learned exactly who you were dealing with. They were fighting the old you, not realizing the new you came with spiritual upgrades they couldn't see. And this is why everything they set up is collapsing on their end. Their plan depended on you being weak. Their confidence depended on you staying broken. Their success depended on your wounds swallowing you whole. But your wiring wouldn't allow that. You were built with resilience they never accounted for, and now they're dealing with the consequences of betting against someone who was designed to rise. Number 2, their cruelty was not random. It was an attempted identity rewrite. What they did to you wasn't just hurtful, it was strategic. People like this don't attack your life, they attack your sense of self. They go straight for your confidence, your voice, your worth, your perception, because if they can distort the way you see yourself, they don't have to lift a finger to destroy your future. Their goal wasn't just to make you uncomfortable, it was to rewrite the story you believe about who you are. Every insult had a purpose. Every betrayal had a target. Every moment they tried to embarrass you, silence you, belittle you, or make you doubt your intelligence was a deliberate attempt to weaken the foundation of your identity. They wanted you to internalize their lies until you couldn't recognize the truth anymore. They wanted you to believe you were smaller, less capable, and less valuable than you really are. Their cruelty wasn't emotional impulse, it was psychological construction. When someone tries to rewrite your identity, they chip away at you slowly. They don't always come in with big, dramatic attacks. They do it subtly. A sarcastic remark, a dismissive look, a joke that wasn't really a joke, a tone that suggested you weren't enough, a reaction that hinted you were doing too much. These tiny cuts add up. The goal is to get you to question yourself so deeply that you willingly shrink. What they didn't expect was that the real you sits beneath all those layers untouched. They didn't realize your sense of identity isn't built on their opinions, it's built on experience, growth, spirituality, resilience, and an internal knowing they could never access. Their attempts to rewrite who you are only highlighted how powerful your original blueprint is. Every time they tried to bend your identity, your spirit snapped back into place even stronger. This is why their actions are haunting them now. The identity they tried to damage is the one standing in the light, exposing every lie they ever projected onto you. Their plan failed because your identity is not editable, it's not negotiable, it's not up for grabs. They tried to create a lesser version of you, but all they did was reveal a greater version instead. Number 3, they mistook your endurance for permission. The people who hurt you convinced themselves you were okay with their behavior simply because you didn't immediately react. They assumed your patience meant approval. They interpreted your silence as weakness. They genuinely believed that because you didn't explode or confront them on the spot, you were fine with the way they treated you. That's how small their understanding of you was. They thought endurance meant agreement. What they never understood is that chosen ones don't respond instantly because they operate from a deeper place. You're not impulsive. You're not quick to chaos. You don't fight every battle you're invited to. You don't explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Your endurance is not passiveness, it's discernment. You know when to speak and when to stay quiet. You know when to step back and when to move forward. And you knew, even in your pain, that reacting to them would drag you down to their level. They mistook your emotional maturity for fear. They mistook your restraint for lack of strength. They thought, if they didn't leave the first time, I can push a little further. They kept testing limits without realizing you were keeping records, not out of spite, but out of clarity. You were watching patterns. You were learning their character. You were seeing who they really were without lifting a finger. And while they were mistaking your endurance for permission, you were gathering the truth you needed to walk away with full conviction. This is where everything backfired for them. The same endurance they mocked is the reason they're facing consequences now. Because once a chosen one finally decides to withdraw their energy, their presence, their voice, their support, or their connection, the entire dynamic collapses. People who take advantage always think they can get away with it forever, until the day you stop showing up. That's when reality hits them. Your endurance was never about letting them do what they wanted. You were simply choosing peace over pointless drama. But now that the universe has stepped in, they're realizing the one thing they misjudged about you is the exact thing holding them accountable today. Number 4, they created a spiritual debt they cannot afford to pay. People think the only consequences that exist are the ones the world can see: laws, rules, arguments, apologies. But there's a different kind of system operating behind the scenes, one that tracks intention, energy, motive, and the truth that never makes it into the conversations. When someone intentionally hurts a chosen one, they step into a realm they don't understand. They aren't just being cruel, they are borrowing from a spiritual account they never deposited into. They're taking from a source that doesn't belong to them, and every action puts them deeper into a deficit. There's a cost attached to every lie they told about you, a cost attached to every trap they set, a cost attached to every moment they enjoyed your pain or pushed you closer to it. They thought they were playing games, but spiritually, they were signing contracts. They were writing down their names on consequences they thought they'd never have to face. The delay in the response made them bold. The silence from the universe made them careless. They thought no reaction meant no record. But the universe doesn't forget. It waits, it gathers, it measures intentions, not performances. And now the bill has arrived. Not because you asked for revenge, not because you wished harm, but because repayment is automatic when the spiritual balance is violated. The consequences they're experiencing now aren't random. It's the interest on everything they took. Interest on the pain, interest on the deception, interest on the manipulation. That's why it feels heavy on them. That's why nothing is flowing. That's why people are turning away from them. That's why their support is vanishing. That's why the doors they once walked through with ease are suddenly sealed tight. The same walls they tried to trap you in have become the walls closing in on them. You didn't have to do anything. You didn't need to fight, expose, retaliate, or defend yourself. The spiritual system did the math on its own, and when the universe finally delivers the total, it never arrives gently. They created a debt out of arrogance. Now they're dealing with consequences they cannot afford, and repayment has only just begun. Number 5, they played a long game of destruction, not knowing you were built for long game resurrection. Some people don't attack you in loud, obvious ways. They go slow. They plan. They scheme quietly. They observe your weaknesses, your habits, your emotions, and they use all of it like data for their strategy. They stretch out the manipulation over months. They drip-feed negativity. They push boundaries little by little. They pretend to care while slowly working against you in the shadows. It wasn't a moment. They were committed. They were invested. They wanted to see you crumble carefully, piece by piece, until you doubted your own strength. They weren't just hurting you. They were studying how to hurt you better. They planned out how to isolate you, confuse you, exhaust you, or push you into a version of yourself that was easier for them to control. They used your kindness as leverage. They used your loyalty as a weapon. They treated your openness like an entry point. Their goal wasn't temporary damage. They wanted a slow collapse, a quiet destruction that no one else would notice. But the mistake they made was assuming you were fragile. They thought your setbacks were signs of weakness, when really they were stages of transformation. They believed your exhaustion meant you were done, when really you were resetting. They mistook your quiet seasons for defeat, not realizing chosen ones evolve differently. You don't break in long battles, you adapt. You don't shrink under pressure. You shed old selves and rise into stronger versions. Every challenge they created forced you to grow mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and internally. They thought they were wearing you down, but they were forcing you into a higher level of awareness. They thought they were taking from you, but they were clearing space for new strength. They thought they were slowing you down, but they were steering you straight into alignment. The real twist is this: the long game they designed for your destruction ended up becoming the long game of their downfall. While they were putting energy into hurting you, they were neglecting their own growth, their own stability, their own future. They were so busy plotting against your life that they let their own life fall apart. They engineered your downfall on paper, but you were built for resurrection in reality. Now the one who survived the long game is the one rising from it, and the ones who created it are the ones caught in their own trap. Number 6. What they did to you wasn't personal, it was predatory. The people who targeted you didn't do it because they had some deep emotional issue with you. They didn't attack you because you were the problem. They attacked because they saw an opening. Predators move toward what looks unguarded. They gravitate toward what appears safe, trusting, open-hearted, and genuine, not because they value it, but because they think they can take advantage of it without consequences. You weren't their enemy, you were their opportunity, and that's what makes their behavior so twisted. You weren't hurt because you lacked strength. You were hurt because your strength was quiet. You were hurt because your kindness wasn't loud and aggressive. You were hurt because your heart was visible, your intentions were clear, and your spirit didn't come with sharp edges at the time. People like this see goodness as a weakness simply because they don't know how to access it within themselves. Your light didn't offend them, your lack of armor did. They saw your empathy and read it as permission. They saw your patience and mistook it for vulnerability. They saw your willingness to give people chances and interpreted it as a green light to take from you. Predators thrive on misinterpretation. They tell themselves stories like, "You won't do anything," or "You won't notice," or "You won't leave." It's not personal. They do this to anyone they think won't immediately fight back. But the part they never prepared for was your awakening. You didn't stay undefended. You didn't stay unaware. You didn't stay accessible to people who feed off weakness they imagined you had. Your spiritual armor didn't grow overnight, but when it formed, it changed everything. You stopped giving predators the benefit of the doubt. You started recognizing manipulation quicker. You began setting boundaries that could cut off entire patterns of behavior with one decision. And now that their motives are exposed, they're the ones scrambling. Predators lose all power once their tactics are recognized. The moment you see them clearly, the game ends. They're realizing that the advantage they thought they had was an illusion. Your goodness was never weakness. It was a strength they didn't understand. And now you're protected in ways they can't get past, while they're stuck facing themselves with no one left to feed on. Number 7, they underestimated the generational protection covering you. The people who came against you thought they were dealing with a single person. They thought every move they made, every word they spoke, every scheme they created was only affecting you in the moment. They had no idea they were stepping into a spiritual lineage that didn't start with you and definitely doesn't end with you. The protection you walk with wasn't born the day you arrived. It was woven long before your name was ever spoken. Your enemies didn't consider the fact that someone before you prayed for the success, safety, and survival of their bloodline. Someone fasted. Someone called on God. Someone asked for their children and their children's children to be covered, even if they never lived to meet them. They didn't know that the battles you faced weren't just yours. You inherited victories you didn't even have to fight for. You came into this world carrying shields your ancestors built, shields they crafted out of faith, loyalty, sacrifice, and spiritual authority. When people targeted you, they thought they were striking someone unprotected. They thought they were overpowering an individual. They didn't know they were coming against an entire spiritual ecosystem designed to keep you standing. That is why their plans never landed the way they expected. It's why their hurtful actions kept bouncing back into their own lives. It's why everything they sent out toward you returned to them with multiplied force. They weren't just fighting you. They were fighting the prayers that covered you. And nobody wins against that. This is why consequences are hitting them unexpectedly hard. They can't understand why their lives are suddenly facing blocks, delays, exposure, or loss. They think it's coincidence, bad timing, or stress. But it's none of that. It's the echo effect. Every wrong they did was amplified by the strength of the spirits backing you. The same protection that carried your ancestors through their storms is the same protection responding to the injustice you went through. They underestimated you because they misread your bloodline. They thought you walked alone. They thought you were standing unarmed. They didn't realize that your lineage is fortified, your path is guarded, and your name is protected by forces they can't see and will never outrun. Number 8. The reason they're facing consequences now is because you matured into someone who can't be manipulated. The people who hurt you assumed they could keep moving you like pieces on a board because they didn't understand the evolution happening inside you. Every time they tried to provoke you, control you, or bend you to their narrative, they measured your reactions against the person you used to be. They didn't see the growth quietly taking place, the inner work, the self-discipline, the clarity that was forming without fanfare. They thought the same tactics that worked before would work forever. That's where they made their biggest mistake. Once you matured and stopped reacting the way they expected, the power dynamic shifted instantly. Every insult they threw lost weight. Every manipulation they tried fell flat. Every threat, whether subtle or overt, couldn't shake you because the internal wiring that used to respond to fear, guilt, or pressure had been upgraded. You became impervious to the levers they pulled on people who were still predictable, still reactive, still pliable. Their playbook was obsolete the moment you outgrew it. You don't have to retaliate to break someone's control. You simply need to stop letting them predict your moves. Your calm, composed, and discerning responses now signal that you're not available for exploitation. That silence or measured action they once thought was passivity is actually strength in disguise. It's the signal that the game is no longer theirs to play, that the rules have changed, and the outcome is no longer in their hands. Now the consequences they face are a direct reflection of this shift. They cannot maintain control because the one they sought to dominate has become unbreakable. The tension they created, the lies, the manipulations, all of it rebounds because the target is no longer responding the same way. What they assumed was their advantage is gone. Their tactics are exposed as ineffective. Their downfall is not random. It's the result of a force they cannot influence. Your evolution, your awareness, your refusal to be used as a tool for their agenda. Their consequences are proof that growth isn't just personal. It's disarming to those who relied on your former vulnerabilities. Number 9, they confused your empathy for naivety. But empathy is intelligence wrapped in compassion. The people who mistreated you assumed that because you had a soft heart, you had a soft mind. They looked at the way you cared, the way you listened, the way you gave chances, and they took it as proof that you were unaware. They believed your empathy meant you couldn't see manipulation. They believed your forgiveness meant you couldn't recognize patterns. They believed your patience meant you didn't understand the game they were playing. In their heads, empathy and naivety were the same thing, and that's why they went so far without fear of consequences. What they didn't realize is that empathy is one of the sharpest forms of intelligence a person can have. Empathy reads energy. Empathy picks up on motives. Empathy notices inconsistencies in behavior long before they become obvious. You weren't blind, you were watching. You weren't clueless, you were processing, you weren't being fooled. You were letting people reveal who they were without interrupting the show. There's a deep wisdom in choosing to see someone clearly and still deciding to move with grace rather than destruction. The truth is, your empathy gave you an advantage they didn't expect. It allowed you to understand the why behind their actions, not just the actions themselves. You could see the insecurity behind the disrespect. You could see the jealousy behind the fake support. You could see the fear behind their aggression. You could see the emptiness behind their cruelty. You knew exactly what was driving them, even when they thought they were hiding it. And that awareness kept you 2 steps ahead, even when they believed they were winning. They never considered that you were forgiving them because you were mentally done with them. They never imagined your silence meant you were mapping your exit, not seeking more chances. They assumed you didn't react because you didn't understand, when really you didn't react because you understood too well. Empathy let you navigate their energy without absorbing it. Empathy let you stay grounded while they tried to pull you into chaos. Now karma is hitting them with a level of precision they can't explain. They don't see the connection, but you do. Your empathy allowed you to see their character long before they saw the consequences of it. And now everything they sent out is returning to them while you stand protected, elevated, and free from the trap they thought you'd never escape. Number 10, their intentions were dark because your presence exposed their spiritual malnutrition. What they carried inside them wasn't hatred. It was deficiency. And when someone who's spiritually undernourished stands next to someone who carries depth, self-awareness, and inner discipline, they don't feel inspired. They feel exposed. Your growth didn't trigger jealousy. It triggered a mirror they were not prepared to look into. You weren't a threat because of what you did. You were a threat because of what you unintentionally revealed about them. Your presence disrupted their illusions. People who haven't done spiritual maintenance react like a damaged system. Every time you came around, their wounds flared, their egos inflated, and their shadows panicked. That panic turned into envy, then criticism, then sabotage. This is why their consequences are not random. They're corrective recalibrations. The energy they projected toward you wasn't neutral. It carried intention. And when intention is dark, consequences must be mathematical. They weren't punished for disliking you. They're facing consequences because they attacked someone who had done the inner work they refused to do. Your growth didn't harm them. Their refusal to grow is what destroyed them. Number 11, they treated you like you were disposable because they never believed your life would rise high enough to expose theirs. The people who mishandled you weren't just unkind. They were overconfident. They measured you by who you were in your lowest season and assumed that version of you was permanent. They bet on your silence, your confusion, your softness, your isolation. They believed those things would keep you conveniently powerless and eternally beneath them. In their minds, you were someone whose pain would never be heard, whose truth would never be validated, whose name would never travel beyond the room. That's why they felt so comfortable mistreating you. Not because you were weak, but because they lacked the imagination to see who you were becoming. Their lack of mercy wasn't just cruelty, it was spiritual short-sightedness. They thought your silence meant safety for them, not transformation for you. They assumed you were too quiet to ever become significant enough to reflect consequences back into their lives. They didn't realize that silence in a chosen one is not surrender. It is incubation. And now, your elevation has turned into a spotlight, and their actions are standing directly in the beam. The same people who dismissed you are now being forced to confront the receipts of their own behavior. They never planned for this moment because they never believed you were destined for one. Your rise didn't embarrass them. It exposed them. Your voice didn't come back to haunt them. Your becoming did. They miscalculated your future, and now they're dealing with the cost of that miscalculation. Number 12. They are panicking now because you hold memories that completely destroy the image they built. The same people who tried to rewrite your identity are now terrified because the truth didn't dissolve the way they hoped it would. For years, they crafted stories about you, quietly, strategically, and confidently. They shaped narratives in rooms you weren't invited into. They painted you as unstable, dramatic, disloyal, difficult, or whatever label made them look innocent and you looked defective. They assumed their version of events would stick because they repeated it long enough and loudly enough. But the problem is this: you remember everything. You didn't forget the tone they used. You didn't forget the setups. You didn't forget the betrayals disguised as concern. You didn't forget the conversations that were meant to confuse you. You didn't forget the moments when their masks slipped and they rushed to act like nothing happened. Your memory has now become the one thing they cannot compete with. They built a fake image of themselves on a shaky foundation while your lived experience stands on solid ground. And the truth doesn't need exaggeration, it just needs timing. That's what's happening now, timing. As life elevates you, your clarity is putting cracks in every lie they ever told. What scares them most isn't that you know the truth, it's that you embody the truth. You are the contradiction to their storytelling. You are the walking evidence that their narrative was a fragile illusion. They told the world one thing, but your growth, your character, your consistency, and your integrity say something completely different. Now they're scrambling, backtracking, revising old lies, trying to soften their history. But the panic isn't about guilt, it's about exposure. They never imagined you would become someone whose memories carry weight. They never imagined you would rise high enough for the truth to finally have a platform. You don't even have to speak. Your existence is the rebuttal. Number 13. Their intentions backfired because pain sharpened your discernment. Everything they did to try and weaken you, the insults, betrayals, manipulations, and schemes, was designed to cloud your judgment, to confuse you, to make you doubt what was real and what was false. They wanted to keep you stumbling in the dark, reacting impulsively, and losing clarity in the chaos they created. But the exact opposite happened. Every attack, every attempt to blind you only made your perception sharper, more precise, and unforgivingly accurate. What was meant to disable you became the very tool that upgraded your ability to see people for exactly who they are. Pain forced your attention to detail. Pain forced you to recognize subtle motives you used to overlook. Pain taught you to read energy the way others read words, to catch inconsistencies before they became patterns, to understand intentions before they were spoken. Every lie they told, every betrayal they engineered, every hidden agenda they thought you would never notice became a lesson in clarity. You didn't just survive. It trained you to identify danger with laser focus, to anticipate deception, and to respond without compromise. The chaos they created became your classroom, and now you graduate with distinction. Their power over you vanished the moment your discernment crystallized. They no longer have access to your energy, your attention, or your trust. The very weapons they used against you, the same methods they assumed would keep you under control, are now irrelevant. You see patterns in people and situations that they can no longer manipulate. They thought they were building walls around you, but what they were actually doing was building mirrors that reflect their own intentions back at them, fully exposed. Their intentions backfired because they underestimated the adaptive nature of your spirit. Every act of cruelty, every attempt to destabilize you, only fortified your perception and removed any chance of repeated intrusion. They no longer have access to the person they thought they could control, and they're left facing the consequences of their own miscalculations, while you stand untouchable, aware, and fully equipped to navigate the world with unmatched precision. Number 14. The repercussions they face now are simply the return of everything they sent out. Nothing happening to them today is random, accidental, or mysterious. It's the return of every intention, every energy, every choice they released into your life. People like them always assume the world forgets. They assume time will erase the truth. They assume their behavior disappears once you stop reacting. But life has a system far more precise than human manipulation, and it keeps receipts even when you stay silent. This isn't revenge. You didn't do anything to trigger their downfall. You didn't have to curse them, clap back, expose them, or get even. Life simply mirrored their own actions back to them. Energy travels in circles, not straight lines. Everything they sent out had no choice but to return, and it came back with accuracy you couldn't have scripted. The cruelty they used to strip you of confidence is now stripping them of opportunities. The lies they spread to isolate you are now isolating them from the very people they tried to impress. The confusion they created around your name is now surrounding theirs. The darkness they pushed you into has now become the room they're trapped in. And the best part? Life didn't rush. It waited until you healed enough to not wish harm on them. Then the universe delivered consequences without emotional fingerprints. What they're facing isn't punishment, it's balance. They built situations based on manipulation, and now they are being manipulated by the very energies they once controlled. They created storms for you, and those storms followed the scent of their intentions straight back to them. What's unfolding for them is the recalibration they never believed would happen. They thought they were exempt from consequences because everything they did was done quietly or cleverly. But life never needed volume to respond. It only needed truth. And now the truth has circled back, carrying every ounce of energy they once used against you. This isn't vengeance. This is the universe returning their own package to sender. Conclusion. Everything that happened to you, the pain, the betrayal, the manipulation, the cruelty, was never random. Every single attack, every act of malice, every attempt to diminish or control you was intentional, carefully calculated, and designed to break the wrong person. But they misjudged you. They studied your wounds, but ignored your wiring. They mistook empathy for weakness, silence for compliance, and patience for naivety. They attacked the wrong version of you, the version they thought would stay small, pliable, and powerless. What they failed to realize is that every challenge, every hardship, every carefully constructed obstacle became the very thing that built your armor, sharpened your perception, and strengthened your inner authority. Their cruelty, their manipulation, their illusions of control all backfired because the person they tried to bend, break, or erase wasn't just resilient. They were designed to rise, and rise you did. You became unshakable because endurance became clarity, patience became discernment, and empathy became intelligence. You walked through their schemes with quiet awareness, documenting everything in your mind, observing everything in reality, and letting life itself become the instrument that exposes truth and delivers balance. What was meant to diminish you only revealed their flaws and exposed the darkness they hoped would remain hidden. Their miscalculations, their spiritual neglect, their short-sightedness, and their arrogance are now coming home to roost. The consequences they face are inevitable, precise, and unavoidable, because energy always returns to its source, and the universe never overlooks intentional harm. This is the power of being a chosen one. You survive the storms that were designed to destroy you. You grow from the battles meant to break you, and you rise in a way that leaves no doubt that every action taken against you has consequences beyond human understanding. You don't have to fight back, argue, or explain yourself. Your life, your evolution, and your presence become the proof. They didn't show mercy, but your elevation now forces accountability in ways they never anticipated. If this resonates with you and you feel the weight of your own journey reflected here, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more deep, transformative insights. Like this video, if it hits you in the core, share it to remind others that truth and justice always find their way, and comment below with your thoughts, your experiences, or the lessons you've learned from rising above the ones who underestimated you. This is more than content. It's a call to recognize your own power, your own growth, and your unstoppable path forward. God bless you.
There comes a moment when your faith becomes so loud that even the people who were never meant to hear you suddenly stop, turn, and take notice. That moment, chosen one, is happening right now, and it's bigger than anything you've imagined. Because while you were busy holding yourself together with faith, duct tape, and holy determination, someone influential, someone whose name carries weight in rooms you've never stepped into, quietly started paying attention. And they weren't impressed by the highlight reel. They were captivated by the moments you thought nobody saw, the nights you battled fear but still rose in the morning, the days you moved forward when logic said, "Give up," the decisions you made with courage, even when fear was screaming louder than hope. Here's a fact for you. Human behavior researchers found that people are more drawn to individuals who remain calm and grounded during uncertainty than those who appear confident during easy seasons. Translation. The very moments you worried made you look unstable or confused were actually displaying a level of spiritual maturity that only the wise recognize. While some people around you were scrolling through your life like it was entertainment, someone influential was studying it like it was evidence of rare character, rare faith, rare endurance. They saw you choosing faith in moments where fear should have had the final word. They saw you walking through storms with a kind of strength that can't be faked. And just to keep it real, they probably also saw those times you were fighting spiritual warfare looking like you were starring in your own dramatic movie scene. But instead of judging you, they admired the fact that you kept showing up anyway. You didn't know it, but every decision you made in faith was echoing into rooms you haven't entered yet. Your patience created impact. Your obedience produced momentum. Your trust in God lit up a path someone powerful happened to notice at the exact moment they were searching for someone like you. Someone who doesn't crumble under pressure. Someone who doesn't negotiate with fear. Someone built from the kind of spiritual fiber that can withstand destiny-level assignments. Now something unexpected is unfolding. Your faith didn't just move mountains, it moved eyes toward you. Someone with influence, resources, and reach has identified you as the kind of person whose story deserves reward, not because you begged for attention, but because your journey carries undeniable proof that divine favor sits on your life. God saw you first, but now someone important sees you too, and they want to honor what your faith has built. Your life is about to experience a shift that fear never prepared for, but faith always knew was coming. Number 1. Your faith became a signal. Only people with spiritual authority can detect. Faith may look quiet on the outside, but spiritually, it's one of the loudest frequencies a human soul can produce. And without knowing it, you've been radiating a signal that the average person is simply not built to interpret. Most people only pick up noise, gossip, drama, opinions, ego. But people with real spiritual authority, they pick up signals, they sense alignment, they discern purity. And what you've been carrying has been echoing far beyond your daily life. Someone influential didn't stumble across you by accident. They felt something steady, something unshakable, something rare. They were drawn to a quiet power in you that others ignored because it didn't fit their limited definition of strength. While people around you were distracted by how calm you looked, this person was paying attention to the spiritual weight behind that calm. They recognized the frequency of someone who has been tested, stretched, broken down, rebuilt, and still refuses to bend to fear. They didn't see perfection. They saw consistency. They saw how you kept choosing trust over panic, purpose over pettiness, clarity over chaos. That doesn't come from personality. That comes from spiritual depth. And people in high places can sense depth the way skilled musicians can hear a single off-key note in a crowded room. Your faith created movement without you having to speak or perform. It put you in alignment with people who can see beyond surface behavior and feel the heartbeat of someone who carries destiny. That signal you've been sending out is the reason someone with influence feels drawn to you, not out of curiosity, but out of respect. They don't just want to reward you. They want to be connected to what you carry, because they know that the kind of faith you walk in is the same kind of faith that builds legacies, opens doors, and shifts entire environments. You didn't realize it, but while your enemies were trying to dim your light, your faith was broadcasting your identity to the right eyes. The real ones heard you, the real ones saw you, and now someone with power wants to honor what they've recognized in you. Number 2, you passed a test. You didn't know you were taking, and someone powerful saw your score. Life has a way of testing people without any warning, and most of the time, we don't even realize the scale of the challenge until it's already happening. Every difficult decision you made, every moment you chose faith over fear, was part of a test you didn't sign up for, a test no one told you about. The world might have looked like chaos, betrayal, or disappointment, but behind the scenes, it was revealing who you truly are. While others were focused on what they could take from you, someone powerful was quietly observing what you would give of yourself to stay faithful, to remain true, and to keep moving even when the weight was almost unbearable. Your endurance, your ability to remain calm under pressure, and your refusal to compromise your values didn't go unnoticed. Someone influential saw the way you responded to situations that could have crushed you, and they realized you weren't just surviving, you were proving your spiritual maturity. They saw the small, almost invisible victories, the moments you resisted bitterness, the times you chose patience over resentment, the way you walked forward when the easier option would have been to quit. These weren't just trials. They were your scoreboard, and someone with real insight recognized the high score you were achieving without applause, without recognition, without validation. That person isn't interested in your story because it's dramatic. They are drawn to the proof of consistency, the evidence of integrity. They noticed that in every difficult moment, you didn't just respond, you responded in a way that confirmed your character and your faith. That's rare, and it's magnetic to those who know how to value it. The test wasn't just for you. It was for the world to witness your readiness. Someone powerful saw that readiness before anyone else did. They saw a person who could handle responsibility, someone whose faith could not be shaken by fear, someone who is built for more than ordinary reward. Your choices, made quietly and faithfully, were recorded in the unseen realm, and now someone influential is ready to act on what they saw, honoring the resilience, faith, and strength you've been demonstrating all along. Number 3, your resilience exposed who was spiritually blind and who was spiritually elite. Resilience isn't just about enduring hardship. It's about how you endure it and what that endurance reveals, not only about yourself, but about everyone around you. In the seasons when life tested you, your strength became a mirror reflecting the true nature of those in your orbit. People who claimed to support you suddenly revealed their intentions, while those who stayed quietly consistent, loyal, and honorable showed the depth of their character. Your resilience didn't just carry you through. It exposed the spiritual blindness of some and the rare clarity of others. Someone influential noticed this. They saw not only your ability to remain upright when everything was trying to knock you down, but also the way your endurance highlighted the contrast between empty words and genuine faith. They recognized that the chaos, betrayal, and opposition you faced weren't shaping you into someone ordinary. They were shaping you into someone extraordinary, someone whose character has been refined by fire and pressure in ways most people will never experience. They could tell who was reacting from ego, fear, or insecurity, and who was aligned with something far deeper and more permanent. Your resilience became undeniable proof of your spiritual depth. It's one thing to survive storms, it's another to emerge from them with wisdom intact, with humility still in place, and with faith strengthened rather than shaken. Someone powerful recognized this distinction immediately. They don't admire noise or dramatics. They respect substance. They noticed that your endurance had revealed patterns and truths that most people overlook, patterns that distinguish mediocrity from greatness, temporary from eternal, fear-driven choices from faith-driven ones. Your ability to navigate hardship without losing yourself, your clarity in chaotic situations, and your unwavering faith made you stand out as someone rare. The world may have been distracted by the storms you endured, but someone influential saw the light you carried through them. They realized that your resilience isn't just a survival mechanism, it's a signal that you're spiritually elite, prepared for opportunities and responsibilities that others will never be ready for. Your strength has become a beacon, and they are drawn to it because it marks you as someone truly chosen. Number 4. Your faith created a ripple effect that reached someone you didn't even know was watching. Faith doesn't just transform your inner world, it quietly alters everything connected to you. Every time you chose faith over fear, even when you were tired, confused, or stretched thin, you were releasing a kind of spiritual energy that doesn't stay contained. It travels, it moves, it impacts. And while you were focused on simply surviving each day, that energy was traveling farther than you ever realized. Someone influential, someone with reach, resources, and insight felt that shift long before they ever saw your face or heard your name. What you carried impacted them in a way they couldn't ignore. They sensed something strong, something steady, something anchored in truth rather than ego or fear. They felt a pull toward your life without fully understanding why. They noticed how your decisions created movement, how your strength stirred something in the atmosphere, how your faith produced results that were too consistent to be accidental. The interesting part is that you didn't do anything dramatic. You didn't perform for an audience. You didn't push for validation, and you didn't try to prove yourself. Your faith did the speaking for you, and that authenticity is what reached someone who knows how to identify real spiritual power. They may not know your full story yet, but they know enough to recognize a survivor when they see one. They know the difference between someone who pretends to be strong and someone who became strong because life forced them to. This influential person has seen plenty of people crumble, compromise, or turn bitter under pressure. But you didn't. You held your ground. You kept your heart intact. You stayed connected to purpose even when fear tried to shake you loose. That resilience created a ripple effect that touched someone who understands the value of a soul that can't be broken by circumstances. Now they're drawn to you because your faith didn't just lift you up. It lifted the atmosphere around you. It marked you as someone the world tried to break, but couldn't. And that kind of spirit is unforgettable to anyone with true discernment. Number 5. Your obedience in private activated a public blessing. You haven't seen yet. There's a kind of obedience that doesn't get applause, likes, or recognition. It happens in silence, in lonely seasons, in quiet decisions, where nobody but God knows what you chose. That's the kind of obedience you walked in. You stayed disciplined when it was easier to drift. You stayed faithful when it was tempting to check out. You stayed honest when shortcuts were right there, waiting for you to grab them. That kind of integrity is rare, and someone influential has taken notice of it in a way you never expected. You didn't just obey in the big moments, you obeyed in the everyday ones, the choices that shape character, the decisions that build foundation, the sacrifices that strengthen spirit. Those choices didn't make noise, but they created momentum behind the scenes. They positioned you for a blessing that requires substance, not just desire. Most people want promotion but aren't willing to be shaped for the level they are praying for. You did the work. You allowed God to refine you without fighting the process. Someone in a position of power admires that. Not the pain you went through, but the way you held your values in the middle of it. They recognize how difficult it is to navigate pressure without breaking your principles. They see that what you carry wasn't handed to you cheaply. It was formed in private moments of surrender, discipline, and self-control. This person understands what real preparation looks like. They know the difference between someone who wants attention and someone who is ready for responsibility. And your private obedience showed them that you're the latter. They're impressed not because you've survived struggle, but because you maintained your integrity while walking through it. That's a sign of someone trustworthy, someone grounded, someone prepared. Your obedience created a spiritual and emotional stability that makes you stand out. It activated doors you don't see yet, opportunities forming in places your name has already reached. Public blessing is on its way because your private decisions built the kind of foundation that can sustain it. Someone influential feels a genuine obligation to honor what they can clearly see God has molded in you. You didn't just grow, you grew right, and that is what's bringing reward to your doorstep. Number 6. Someone powerful realized. You're the kind of person who doesn't fold under pressure. You transform. Pressure exposes people. It reveals who's built on fear and who's built on faith. Most individuals crumble when life applies weight. They panic, they freeze, they retreat. But you're wired differently. When pressure shows up, you don't shrink. You shift. You evolve. You rise into a stronger version of yourself because you've learned how to let challenges sharpen you instead of break you. Someone powerful noticed that about you, and it changed the way they see you completely. This person observed how you carried yourself through moments that could have shattered your confidence. They paid attention to the way you navigated setbacks without spiraling, how you maintained your dignity even when disappointment hit harder than expected, and how you adjusted your approach instead of abandoning your path. They saw growth, not collapse. They saw transformation, not meltdown. And to someone in a position of influence, that's more than admirable. It's rare. You weren't just surviving the pressure, you were using it as fuel. You let it push you into deeper levels of wisdom, clarity, and spiritual strength. You allowed it to develop your patience, sharpen your instincts, and refine your character. Most people resist the fire. You learned from it. You walked through adversity and came out more focused, more grounded, and more aligned with who you were meant to become. This influential person recognizes that kind of resilience because they've met enough people to know the difference between temporary confidence and true inner strength. They know that someone who transforms under pressure can handle opportunities that others would easily fumble. They see you as an investment, not because of your survival story, but because of your transformation story. There's a maturity in the way you respond to challenges, a steadiness in the way you adjust your mindset, and a courage in the way you continue to rise that impresses even the strongest leaders. You didn't fold, You didn't run. You didn't break. You advanced. You evolved. And someone powerful sees that evolution as proof that you're ready for bigger responsibility, greater visibility, and rewards that match the strength you've built. Number 7. Your faith revealed that you have a calling that cannot be counterfeited. There's a big difference between people who talk like they're called and people who actually are. Talk can be rehearsed, attitude can be copied, style can be imitated, but the one thing that can never be faked is the spiritual signature a person carries when they're walking in real faith. Your life has that signature. It's the kind of authenticity that stands out without trying, and someone with true discernment recognized it the moment you came across their radar. This person didn't see a trend or an image, they saw depth. They saw the kind of faith that is formed through real battles, not borrowed language. They noticed that your strength wasn't shaped by ego but by endurance. They recognized that your confidence wasn't inflated, but earned through seasons where you had nothing to rely on except God and your own resilience. That mark, your spiritual fingerprint, is something people who haven't lived your truth simply cannot replicate. In a world where many pretend to have power they don't possess, your authenticity breaks through the noise. You don't just talk faith, you carry it. You don't just quote scripture or speak positivity. You embody the transformation behind it. Your life has evidence attached to it, evidence of survival, evidence of guidance, evidence of being shaped by something higher than ambition or strategy. And that evidence is what caught the attention of someone influential. This person understands calling. They know what real purpose looks like because they've seen plenty of counterfeits. They can tell when someone is performing spirituality versus when someone is genuinely chosen. When they looked at you, they didn't see luck, hype, or coincidence. They saw divine placement. They saw a journey marked by God's hand, not human approval. That's why they want to reward you, not because you fit a mold, but because you broke one. Number 8. You pulled yourself out of places most people never recover from, and someone took note. Some people go through challenges that leave permanent scars, but you went through experiences that should have completely taken you out, and yet you rose. Not because it was easy, and not because you had endless support, but because something inside you refused to let darkness have the final say. That kind of survival isn't ordinary. It's not something people can fake. It's the type of strength that becomes living proof that God's hand was on you the entire time. Your journey carries a weight that can't be explained by simple luck or coincidence. It carries evidence, real, undeniable evidence of spiritual endurance. You didn't just walk through tough seasons, you walked through seasons that break people permanently. You navigated heartbreak that could have shut your spirit down. You endured betrayals that should have shattered your trust forever. You survived moments that had the potential to pull you into bitterness, hopelessness, or self-doubt. But you didn't stay in those places. You clawed your way out with faith, determination, and a stubborn refusal to surrender. Someone influential recognized that. They didn't see a victim or a survivor, they saw a miracle in motion. They saw that your strength wasn't built in comfort, but in crisis. They realized you've been carrying a level of resilience that can't be taught in books or learned in classrooms. Your track record isn't visible on paper, but it's loud in your spirit. It's clear in your presence. It's written all over the way you show up, the way you speak, and the way you move. This person admired the fact that you didn't allow your hardships to harden you. Instead of becoming numb or detached, you became deeper, wiser, and more compassionate. Instead of letting pain define you, you let it refine you. That transformation is powerful to witness, and it's part of what draws them to you. They see someone who shouldn't have made it, but did. Someone who shouldn't be standing, but is. someone who shouldn't be this strong, but is stronger than ever. They know they're standing in front of someone rare, someone protected, someone chosen, and they can't help being drawn to the undeniable evidence of divine preservation that your life carries. Number 9. Your faith forced every hidden enemy into the light, and someone powerful finally noticed the pattern. What you thought was random chaos was divine choreography. Every conflict, every smear, every betrayal had a timing to it, a spiritual timestamp that kept exposing people one by one. You weren't watching your life fall apart. You were watching masks fall off in perfect order. What made this exposure so different is that you weren't fighting back. You weren't clapping back. You weren't defending yourself like the average person would. Your stillness created a vacuum their own darkness couldn't resist filling. And the moment they stepped into that vacuum, their intentions became obvious, not to the world at first, but to someone who matters. There is an individual, maybe a leader, maybe someone in authority, maybe someone with influence and resources, who has been silently observing you. They weren't impressed by the noise. They were impressed by the patterns. To this person, it didn't look lucky. It didn't look coincidental. It didn't look random. It looked protected. It looked sealed. It looked spiritually reinforced. This is why they're paying attention now, not because of the drama, but because of your anointing's reaction to the drama. People in high places recognize divine favor instantly because it's the one thing they can't buy, can't orchestrate, and can't counterfeit. They know influence, they know connections, they know power plays, but they also know when something beyond human manipulation is at work. Your life became a case study. Your endurance became a testimony. Your peace became evidence. Your faith became a spotlight, revealing enemies who thought they were invisible. And the person who noticed, they're not watching you out of curiosity. They're watching you because divine patterns always precede divine elevation. You didn't just survive sabotage. You exposed every saboteur without saying a word, and someone with authority finally understands what that means. You are chosen, and touching you is dangerous, spiritually and politically. Number 10. Your fearlessness. Wasn't loud, it was surgical, and someone in authority recognizes that level of precision and discipline. Most people confuse fearlessness with noise, with throwing punches, shouting, reacting, or performing strength. But your strength never needed theatrics. Your power operated on a different frequency. When the pressure mounted and the walls closed in, you didn't flinch or spiral the way your enemies hoped. You made moves that looked silent on the outside but were strategic, spiritual, and deeply informed on the inside. Your enemies were loud because they were unprepared. You were quiet because you were calculating. You weren't frozen. You were reading the room, reading the energy, reading the intentions behind the chaos. You responded like someone who wasn't walking by sight at all. You were walking by codes, instincts, revelations, and prophetic inner guidance that most people don't even know how to interpret. You didn't decide based on emotion. You decided based on alignment. You didn't react out of insecurity. You acted from spiritual clarity. You didn't avoid confrontation out of fear. You bypassed it because you saw the trap 3 moves ahead. And that caught the attention of someone who actually understands power. This person in authority, maybe a leader, maybe a protector, maybe someone with influence and specialized insight, noticed something that regular people never could. Your composure wasn't accidental. It was engineered. It was the type of discipline only forged through. They watched the way you handled storms that should have emotionally shredded you. They saw you remain precise, calculating and spiritually intelligent when the average person would have spiraled into panic, retaliation, or self-sabotage. That's when they realized, this is not a follower. This is a leader in disguise. Even in your lowest moment, your decisions carried the quality of someone operating far above their environment. What looked like struggle to others looked like leadership potential to the person who sees beyond the surface. They recognized your discipline. They recognized your restraint. They recognized your spiritual intelligence. They recognized that your silence was never fear. It was strategy. And in powerful spaces, strategy speaks louder than confidence, louder than charisma, louder than reputation. It's the language of people who have survived too much, learned too much, and evolved too far to ever panic again. You weren't just fearless, you were calculated, chosen, and spiritually trained for leadership. And someone with authority now knows it. Number 11. Someone influential. Realized you don't seek validation. You seek purpose. Most people live for reactions. They measure success by applause, likes, attention, or recognition. But not you. You've always operated differently. Your focus has been on what matters, not on what's celebrated. You chose assignments over approval, growth over gossip, and true elevation over shallow ego boosts. Even when no one noticed, even when no one cheered, you kept moving. That consistency, that self-directed determination, didn't go unnoticed. It caught the attention of someone powerful who can see beyond the surface. This person recognized that your life isn't driven by desire to be liked or admired. Your motivation comes from purpose, from alignment, from the internal compass that keeps you steady no matter how loud the noise around you gets. You've been quietly doing the work, building yourself, healing yourself, strengthening yourself, and leveling up spiritually and mentally without needing external validation. That kind of discipline is rare, and people in positions of real influence notice it immediately, because they know it's the hallmark of someone who can handle responsibility, impact, and legacy. Your journey demonstrates that real power isn't about being seen. It's about showing up consistently, aligning with God, and putting your energy where it actually matters. You've proven that your actions are not for applause but for results. Results that last, results that matter, results that impact others in ways invisible to the crowd. Someone influential recognized that you are not swayed by temporary opinions or fleeting admiration. You are guided by principle, focus, and purpose, and that is the kind of person they want to align with. Your ability to ignore distractions, stay true to your path, and prioritize purpose over popularity signals maturity beyond your years. It shows that you are ready for assignments far greater than what most people are prepared to handle. Your faith, integrity, and unwavering dedication to your calling are impossible to overlook. Someone powerful has taken note, not just because you succeeded, but because of how you succeeded. On your own terms, with quiet strength and unshakable alignment with what you were meant to accomplish. You are not seeking validation. You are seeking destiny, and destiny always gets noticed. Number 12. Your faith became a mirror that exposed everyone else's intentions, and someone in high places paid attention. Faith doesn't just shift your path, it exposes the truth hiding in plain sight. When you chose faith over fear, over rage, over bitterness, it didn't just transform you, it revealed the condition of everyone connected to you. Your choices became a quiet spotlight that showed who genuinely cared, who was pretending, and who was quietly waiting for you to fall apart. The way you moved in those moments, the grace you showed, the self-control you maintained, became a living testimony that someone influential couldn't ignore. Your faith created separation without you having to lift a finger. It drew honest hearts closer and pushed dishonest ones into the open. It showed who celebrated your progress and who flinched at it. It showed who applauded your breakthroughs and who wished your losses were permanent. People don't realize how revealing spiritual strength can be. When you operate with clarity, people's true intentions can't hide for long. And you noticed it, but you didn't respond with spite, pettiness, or the need to set the record straight. You held your dignity like it was currency. That struck a chord with someone watching, someone in a high place, someone with influence, resources, or authority, saw how you handled betrayal, envy, and hidden agendas without losing your identity. They noticed your emotional discipline. They noticed how you carried yourself when people tried to twist narratives or create chaos around you. That level of internal stability is not common in a world where many collapse under pressure or lash out impulsively. The way you held your peace told them everything they needed to know about your character. Your faith didn't just expose others. It validated you. It proved you weren't moved by noise. It proved you weren't driven by ego. It proved you had the maturity to handle blessings, opportunities, and favor without sabotaging yourself in the process. The influential person watching you recognized that. They saw someone who could rise without becoming arrogant and endure without becoming bitter. Your faith revealed the truth, and your response to that truth revealed your strength. That's why someone powerful decided you're worthy of reward. Your character became your confirmation. Number 13, you walked through darkness without becoming it. And someone who values integrity saw the difference. There's a rare kind of strength that doesn't show up in muscles, volume, or bravado. It shows up quietly, in the choices you make when no one is applauding, and in the values you protect even when life tries to bury them. You carried that kind of strength. You walked through seasons that could have left you numb, angry, spiteful, or permanently guarded. But you didn't let the darkness swallow who you really are. You endured it without becoming a reflection of it. That alone put you in a category most people never ascend to. Someone influential saw that. Not in a dramatic spotlight moment, but in the subtle ways your character held its shape under pressure. They witnessed the strength it took to stay kind when cruelty tried to harden you. They noticed how you stayed honest when lies were used as weapons against you. They recognized how you kept your heart soft even when life gave you every reason to turn stone cold. That level of integrity is so rare that when powerful people see it, they don't take it lightly. Most people break in the dark. They compromise themselves trying to survive. They lose their compassion, their patience, their joy, their authenticity. But you managed to walk through painful seasons with your values intact. You didn't trade dignity for revenge. You didn't sacrifice your soul to match the energy of those who tried to dim your light. You kept your center steady, and that's exactly what makes you different. It signals that you can be trusted with more responsibility, more opportunity, more elevation, without losing your identity. Someone with influence saw that you didn't just survive darkness, you outgrew it. You walked through fire without letting it turn you cynical. You maintained a level of self-respect that proves your spirit can't be bought, manipulated, or corrupted by circumstance. That's the kind of integrity that powerful people value deeply because they know how rare it is. You didn't become the darkness you faced. You remained the light that outlasted it. And that's why someone important is ready to reward you, because you've already shown them exactly who you are when the world goes dim. Number 14, you've been operating on faith. So long that someone influential realized you're ready for responsibility, not just blessings. Many people ask for blessings without understanding what it takes to carry them. They pray for abundance but aren't equipped to handle it. They want doors opened but aren't prepared to walk through them with wisdom and integrity. You're different. You've been operating on faith for so long that endurance has become second nature. Every trial, every pressure, every season of waiting has trained you for more than temporary rewards. It's trained you for responsibility, leadership, and purpose that matches your calling. Your life has been a continuous classroom. You've learned stewardship, managing what God has entrusted to you even before it's fully manifested. You've learned discipline, staying consistent when shortcuts and easy options were available. You've learned humility, staying teachable, flexible, and grounded even when people doubted or opposed you. And you've gained clarity, a spiritual vision that keeps you moving in alignment with your destiny rather than chasing temporary gain. That combination is rare, and someone influential has noticed it. They aren't impressed merely by your survival. Endurance is commendable, but readiness is transformational. They see that you're not only able to handle what comes your way, but that you're ready to lead, to guide, and to expand the influence that comes with God's favor. They see reliability, a person whose decisions won't crumble under pressure, whose integrity won't waver under temptation, and whose faith isn't dependent on applause or acknowledgement. They see someone prepared for impact, someone whose blessings are designed to multiply purpose, not inflate pride. This person understands the difference between someone who wants blessings and someone who is equipped to steward them. And when they look at you, they don't just see endurance, they see destiny in motion. They recognize that your preparation season has readied you for opportunities that require wisdom, courage, and moral clarity, qualities that most people only hope to develop in a lifetime. Your faith hasn't just kept you standing. It's proven that you're ready to step into God's next chapter with responsibility, vision, and authority. Someone powerful sees that, and they're ready to support the next level God has prepared for you. Conclusion: your faith, your journey, and the recognition you deserve. Every moment you've walked in faith, every decision you made to rise above fear, every trial you endured without compromise has not gone unnoticed. You've lived through storms that would have broken most people, yet you emerged refined, disciplined, and unshakable. Your obedience, your resilience, your ability to transform pressure into growth, and your unwavering integrity have created ripples far beyond what you can see. Those ripples have reached eyes of influence, eyes that recognize not just survival, but divine alignment, character, and readiness for destiny. Your journey has proven something undeniable: that real faith isn't just about believing, it's about acting, enduring, and rising even when the world doubts, lies, or conspires against you. The people around you may have underestimated your strength, tried to sabotage your progress, or failed to recognize your purpose. But someone powerful, someone who understands divine patterns, has seen you clearly. They see the rare combination of courage, wisdom, discipline, and moral clarity that most people spend a lifetime trying to acquire. They see not just who you are, but who you are becoming, and they know that what God has prepared for you requires someone who can handle it with the maturity, faith, and spiritual intelligence that you have consistently demonstrated. Your faith has become more than a personal strength. It's a signal, a testimony, and a mirror that reflects not just your destiny, but the truth of the world around you. It has drawn attention from the right people at the right time, and it has positioned you for opportunities, rewards, and recognition that match the depth of what you've carried. You didn't have to chase it, beg for it, or force it. You simply stayed true, stayed faithful, and let your life reveal the excellence that only discipline, obedience, and unwavering purpose can produce. Now it's time for you to step fully into what's coming. The recognition, the support, the elevation, they're not just rewards, they are confirmations of a journey guided by divine alignment and spiritual precision. God has been orchestrating this, and someone influential is ready to honor it. Your faith has paved the way, your endurance has cleared the path, and your integrity has set the standard. If this message resonated with you, Don't keep it to yourself. Make sure to subscribe to the channel for more powerful revelations. Like this video to show your support. Comment below with your thoughts or testimonies, and share it with others who need to hear this truth today. The world needs more people to see the power of faith in action, and your engagement helps spread this energy even further. Your journey matters, your faith matters, and your purpose is being recognized, even by those you never expected. Step into it boldly, because your time has arrived. God bless you.